Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Tim Shurr, and today I'm going to be sharing this brief masterclass on 7 strategies for how to quickly lower employee turnover and that churn that we have. You know how difficult and how painful it can be running a company if you're losing your best people. If we lose people that have not been performing or that were difficult to work with, that's okay, right? But what happens is because of the mistakes that a lot of people make, we end up losing our best players, and that can be painful. Employee turnover is expensive. It costs so much money to be able to find good people and then to be able to train them and then get them used to the job and then get them acclimated to working with everybody else. And it just takes a long time and it's very expensive. And then if they leave, then you have to do the process all over again. Plus, that also weakens morale, because people get used to the people they're working with, and if they constantly have new people coming in or they're constantly being asked new questions all the time, then your other employees feel like, now I'm spending all my time training these people instead of getting my work done, and it creates all kinds of friction and more problems that weren't there. Now, this does not have to happen. I have found that most of the reasons why people leave are psychological, they're mental, they're emotional. It's not because of the job itself or the work per se. It's because of the relationships that they are having or the lack of relationships that they're experiencing. People don't usually leave their job. They leave their manager, they leave their supervisor, they leave their boss. And lack of trust is a really big problem in the workplace today. In fact, there's 3 reasons why people usually leave their job, when it really isn't about the job or the work, it's about the relationships. So the first one is what we call poor work relationships. And when you have poor work relationships, that means that you're not happy about going to work. You're not excited about seeing the people that you work with. In fact, it's a dread. You dread having to go to work on Monday because of the person that you sit next to, or because of how people talk to one another, or the negativity or the toxicity or the gossip or the competitiveness. And that all is the fault of leadership teams. People like to blame it on employees, but employees follow their leaders. And so if there's an issue that's happening with the people in your company, it's a leadership issue. Leaders are either turning a blind eye, or they are the ones that are instigating the competitiveness or allowing the toxic language to be used, or allowing people to make insensitive comments that offend others. And that is a leadership issue. So if that's happening, we need to take a look at ourselves. I'm a leader in my company. And so if you're watching this and you're a leader in your company, we need to take a look at ourselves and saying, hey, what am I allowing to have happen? Or what am I allowing to take place? Or am I actually role modeling this? A lot of leaders will make offensive jokes, or just their own behaviors and the way that they show up each day influences other people. And that becomes a big problem. So we need to take a look at that. There have also been cases where a lot of times leaders, because they get uncomfortable with conflict, they turn an eye, or they keep sweeping it under the carpet, or they might talk to somebody a couple of times, but they don't really hold them accountable. And so having that, we call it, not being psychologically safe. If people don't feel like they're psychologically safe, if they don't feel like they're being valued, if they don't feel like they're being taken care of by their leadership team, then they're not going to take care of the company. I've had leaders who have told me over the years, they're like, well, our people are just lazy, or they don't care, or they're not in it to make a difference. And then when I watch those leaders in action, I find out quickly why those employees feel that way. Or often they don't feel that way. They're just not being coached. And so they're not using the 7 strategies that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. So it's often a leadership blind spot. And if you are unaware of what leadership blind spots are, then check out my other masterclasses. I just did one recently on the 5 most common leadership blind spots. Do you have them? So you can check that out. Another problem, in addition to poor workplace relationships, either with your boss or with your coworkers, is a lack of leadership support and training. And that is a big problem. A lot of times companies don't invest in training people. And a lot of the training that we need isn't just the job skills. It's really, how do you manage the stress and anxiety, the pressures of going through a pandemic, the pressures of working from home all of a sudden. Although it can be really exciting to work from home, it can also be a big distraction. How do you stay disciplined? If you are interested in learning more about self-discipline, I just did another live video on the secrets of increasing self-discipline for at-home workers. So you can check that out in the videos that I have. So making sure that we're providing coaching and support is huge. Job training, of course, because you want to coach people and help them succeed with their job. If you're just handing them, like in the old days, a sales company would hand you a telephone book and a phone and say, good luck. And that was horrible training. And most people got burned out real quick and quit, right? And so that's not teaching people how to succeed. That's not building people up. Your job as a leader, a supervisor, or a manager is to build other people up. That is your main goal. We want to be transformational as leaders, not just transactional. Transactional leaders, and there's way more of them, are quite focused on the to-do lists and the tasks and the actions that need to be done, and not really on developing strong relationships with the people that they serve. A lot of times leaders think that their employees are supposed to serve them, but it's actually the other way around. The third thing that we've talked about, which is the biggest one, is a lack of trust. If people do not trust you, if they do not trust their leaders, if they do not trust other people, or if they don't trust themselves, if they have a lack of confidence, which a lot of people do, then you're going to find that it's a struggle with anything you try to do, with achieving your goals or hitting your numbers or staying on track or increasing productivity, whatever the initiative may be. It is going to be a struggle because you have to have trust for everything. You got to have trust to create psychological safety. You have to have trust to be able to share honestly what's going on. You have to share, you have to have trust in order to ask for help. You have to have trust in order to believe that your company has your best interests at heart. Trust is the backbone for everything. It's the foundation for everything. And to be honest, most people do not trust their leaders. The Edelman Barometer surveyed industries and sectors all over the world and asked this question: do you trust your leader? And in like 2017, before the turbulent elections, before all the challenges that we've had from the last election year and from what's going on in our world because of all the problems that we have, it was 63% of people don't trust their leader back in 2017. It's probably around 80 to 90% of that now, where people just don't trust anybody. They don't trust their leaders. They don't trust their companies. They don't trust their other workers, or friends, because everybody feels like I've got to cover my own asset. I've got to make sure that I don't get hurt, what if I get fired? What if I get laid off? It doesn't feel like there's much loyalty in the world. You can have the best employee satisfaction scores. You can have the best personal scores where, I forget the name of it, but when you were sitting down with your manager and they're giving you an evaluation, a yearly evaluation, or maybe every 6-month evaluation, and you have aced it every time. People say you're the best, and then all of a sudden you get laid off. Well, then in your mind, it's like, I can work really, really hard and it still doesn't matter. So you're not going to put loyalty into a company like that, right? So trust is everything. So let's go ahead and talk about, how do we build trust? How do we improve workplace relationships? And how do we start providing better coaching and encouragement and support and training so that your employees stay? All right. So number one, as a boss, as a leader, you got to be competent. I talk to employees all the time, and one of their biggest complaints is they think my boss is incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. They're not doing a good job. I should be the boss, not them. And that is a real problem. So a boss should be really good at what they do so that they can teach others. Bosses and leaders and supervisors and managers have a tough job because, one, you got to be good at what you do. And two, you've got to be good at teaching other people how to do it and managing multiple personalities. Well, that's a lot. We're not practical psychologists. I am, but you probably aren't, right? And so you probably haven't spent decades of your life understanding human behavior and personality traits and how to influence people in at an unconscious level, right? And so if you don't have that understanding, it can be really challenging. You can be great at what you do, but it doesn't mean that you're great at teaching it or at understanding how to help other people. And so it can be a real challenge. But you've got to make sure that you have the first part down. You know, bosses need to be competent. They need to know what they're doing. And so we need to make sure that we are putting the right people in the right seats. So that is number one. If you have managers, if you are in HR and you are watching this, you know, make sure that the people that you have in those positions are doing a good job of understanding how the job works, and then also how to train other people. And if they don't have that, then make sure you provide that training for them, right? Because again, we want to always be learning and growing. Most managers, most leaders, most employees are not doing any kind of personal development training. And so that's why there's so much lost opportunity. Okay. The second thing is leaders need to be encouraging. You know, that old idea of my way or the highway approach doesn't work, because people will leave, especially the younger generations. They'll leave, you know, and then a lot of Generation Z and younger millennials, they might have 5 or 6 jobs, you know, in the first couple of years because they don't like the culture that they're a part of. And so they'll leave and they'll find another job. There's a lot of companies that are hurting to find good people. And so it's easy to find another job if you are someone who's going to be a great employee. So we want to make sure that we're encouraging, that we're being supportive, that we're praising people, that we're letting them know that they're doing a great job, that we're, you know, offering compliments and validating what they're doing. And if they make a mistake, you know, it's okay to help them with that mistake, but then don't harp on it. Focus on, you know, you made a mistake here, but you've been doing good on these other areas. And so this is an opportunity to learn. You know, there's no failure. There's just feedback. Where can we learn from this? Where can we get the feedback from this? And then this is feedback that other people might need as well. So let's, you know, talk about some of these areas where we've learned, and then share it. You know, you don't have to say, well, so-and-so made this mistake, so we're all going to learn from it. We don't want to do that. But what you can do is notice where different mistakes are being made, and then have a class, and then you record it so people can watch it on their own time, and then say, hey, these are some of the common challenges that people have, and this is how you handle these situations, so that you don't have to keep solving the same mistakes over and over and over, because you're doing it one at a time. You're collecting these ideas, and then you're doing best, you know, these are the best skills training. These are the best practices training. This is where people have mistakes, and then this is what we can do to make sure that that doesn't happen, and what to do instead. And do you do these best practices training? And people love that. Employees love that, because it helps them from making mistakes, and it keeps their customers happy, and that keeps them happy, and that will keep you happy as well. So we want to make sure that we're being encouraging and supportive. You would think that that would be a no-brainer, but so many people feel like they don't get compliments, or they don't need compliments, so they don't give them. And it's such a big deal. It's so important to that someone's making you feel good about yourself while you're at work. Okay. Number 3, we want to make sure we have clear objectives. Sometimes we get so busy, or people are working from home, that we're not clear on what the goal is, or what the objectives are, or how that fits in the bigger picture. Sometimes people are doing a job and they feel like they're not making a big difference, or nobody really cares about them. Maybe you have people that are in accounting or fulfillment, and they're like, oh, well, you give all the attention to the salespeople, right? Well, you want to make sure that everybody feels important. If you have an engine and it has 6 spark plugs in there, you got to make sure that every spark plug is working and firing correctly, because if one of them is off, then the engine won't run right. So we want to make sure that everybody understands how valuable they are, and how they're adding to the success of the company. And so by making sure that we're clear with our objectives and what we're doing and how it matters, helps a lot. I will hear employees complain because they say that, oh, my boss changes their mind 50 times a day. And they say, we're going to do this, and then an hour later, they're going to do this, and then an hour later, they're going to do that. Well, as the leader, you need to get clear on what you're going to do before you start giving out orders. You need to talk it through, or wait a little while before you roll it out to everybody else, or get opinions from other people, so that you have a plan. Now, there's 2 types of people that plan. There's the one who says, well, let's get something out there, let's get the ball rolling, and we'll correct on the fly. The other type is, no, we're going to plan it out clearly so that we don't have to recorrect. And then we're going to stick to our plan all the way through. And so when you have those two people at the same time, they're going to conflict, because one wants to just keep moving and the other one wants to slow down and plan, and they're going to annoy each other. And so we've got to make sure that when we are telling people this is the outcome that we want, these are the steps that we're going to take, this is why we're doing this, this is what your role is in this is what my role is in this, and then let's start doing it and get some feedback or see what happens, then everybody is clear. Asking for clarification is huge. Just, are you sure what you're going to do and what your objectives are and how you're going to approach it? Great. Teach it back to me so that I know we're on the same page. Get it so that people are comfortable asking for clarification. People are really, want to feel good about asking questions. Nobody should ever feel dumb or feel like they're going to be made fun of or that people are going to tease them. That should never happen. You should make it where asking for clarification is like a badge of honor. It makes people feel courageous when they are asking for feedback, right? So we want to make sure that we have clear objectives. Number 1, 2, 3, 4 is when you are coaching people, you want to make sure as a leader that you are coaching them to success. All right. A lot of times leaders will say, here's your numbers, here's your goals, this is what you're going to do. I'll see you in 3 months, and then we'll do another evaluation and see how well you did. That is a terrible way of leading people. You should be in the trenches with them, checking in on them, helping them to see where they're at and coaching them to their goals. Now, if you are leading a lot of people, maybe you have 100 people on your different teams or across the country, then it may be very difficult to do a lot of one-on-ones, but you can do groups. Do smaller groups, do groups of 5 or groups of 10 and get people feeling good about one another. And again, if you position it as we're growing and we're sharing best practices, as opposed to this is what everybody's doing wrong and now you're going to bust me out, right? It's all the intention and how you package the meeting and how you set it up and how you explain clearly why you're doing that. And then you can help people and coach people and they get people helping each other. So it's collaborative as opposed to competitive. You shouldn't be competing with people on your own team. You should be collaborating with the people on your own team, competing against other companies. That's why we call them your competition. So we want to make sure that you are coaching people to their success. The next one is you want to make sure that you are open to their ideas. Nobody wants to feel like they're always being barked down to, given orders, right? People want to feel like they are a part of making the company better. I have found that people support what they co-create. People support what they co-create. If they feel like they have played a role in what we're doing, that they're playing a role in new creative ideas or innovation, the difference between creativity and innovation, creativity is when you come up with a whole new approach or a whole new idea or a whole new product line that wasn't there before. Innovation is how you take something that's already there and you make it a little bit better. Operational excellence, you make it a little bit better. Quality control, you just keep making it 1% better all the time. And so people will be creative and they'll be innovative if they feel like their ideas are cared about. If you ask them to put ideas in a suggestion box and then those suggestions are actually read or they're talked about in a monthly meeting, or, you reach out to them and say, I love the idea, but we're not going to be able to do it this time because of this reason. If people feel like they are being valued and their ideas are being taken seriously, then they will contribute more ideas. And if you have a collaborative, innovative, creative workforce, oh my goodness, you are going to be so far ahead of everybody else because your people are your competitive advantage, not your product, your service, how you deliver it, or your, 5-star rating on Google, or, whatever else you may think that it is. It's really not. It's your people. Your people are your competitive advantage, how they take care of each other and how they take care of their customers. And when they feel taken care of, they will take care of their customers. When they don't feel taken care of, guess what happens? So we want to make sure that we're staying open to ideas, that we're creating that culture where people feel safe and they feel valued and they feel appreciated for their contributions. And then the last one is empower, don't preach. Okay, empower, don't preach. And what that means is when you're talking to people, Validate where I have an acronym, love your people, LUV. It stands for listen to, understand, and validate. You want to listen to where people are coming from. When they're complaining, validate where they're coming from, validate their feelings, say you're sorry that they're going through that or that they're having this experience, and try to understand where they're coming from. Too many times we try to put a positive spin on it. We try to immediately redirect them to how they could be looking at it a different way, or we get mad at them for always complaining. But people always complain because they don't feel like they're ever being heard. So we want to make sure that we are first listening to them and validating where they're at. If you don't validate how they're feeling, then they feel like you're not listening to them, or you're not taking them serious, or you don't care. And that breaks trust. Every time you communicate with someone, you're either strengthening or weakening trust. You're either making deposits into those trust accounts, or you're making deposits, or you're bouncing checks and making withdrawals. So we want to make sure that we are focused on making those deposits and empowering people rather than preaching. I was just talking to someone the other day who called me up because she has so much stress with her job, and she decided that she's leaving. And she is a powerhouse in that company, and they are going to take a big hit when she leaves. But she said, I'm tired of my helicopter boss. My boss is always a helicopter hanging over me, pointing out what I'm doing wrong, not getting back to me, not having clear instructions for what I'm supposed to be doing. When I reach out, it takes a long time for them to get back to me. I just don't feel valued. I don't feel like I have a sense of clarity anymore, and I can't handle that kind of stress and pressure. And so they're going to lose someone who's very valuable. And that is a giant mistake. And it happens more than it doesn't happen. And so that's unfortunate. However, I always believe that there's a huge opportunity in situations like this. There's always a huge creative opportunity when we're having friction or high turnover or problems with communication or disrespectful communication or finger pointing, silos, all the negative experiences that happen in the workplace that are all people-based, that are all relationship-based, that have nothing to do with your IT or your technology or your location or office space or your products or services. It really is about the psychology of the people and the relationships. And so if you start applying these 7 strategies, it's going to significantly lower turnover. More importantly, it's going to build a stronger workplace, a happier culture, and increase your bottom line. It's going to increase revenue that's sustainable because people when they feel really good, they're more productive. And they will contribute, and they'll offer that discretionary effort, right? They'll do more than even what they're paid for because they're a fan of their boss and they're a fan of the company. And when you have that kind of relationship, it's huge, right? So let's go through those 7 one more time. So you've got to make sure that you have a competent leader. You want to make sure that you're being encouraging. You want to make sure that you're setting clear objectives. Number 4, you're taking the approach of a coach instead of a supervisor. Right? That number 5, you're being collaborative and open to ideas because you know that people support what they co-create. And then number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want to make sure that you're being collaborative instead of competitive. And number 7, you want to empower instead of preach. Right? You want to help people feel like they are important part of what you're doing. It also helps you as a leader if you're empowering people and teaching people so that they don't keep coming to you with the same problems all the time. That's why I think the idea of having best practice meetings is crucial. It saves you a huge amount of time. From a leadership standpoint, I have a lot of leaders who are constantly telling me, I can't get my stuff done because people keep coming to me to help them solve problems that they should be able to solve on their own. Or I've taught them how to do this 5 different times and they're still coming to me. Well, that's because they're used to you solving it and they figure you're just going to do it faster, right? Or you're going to do it better, or they don't believe in themselves. We have a lot of self-limiting beliefs that hold us back more than anything else. And that's why I wrote that book, One Belief Away. So when you are empowering people and teaching people to believe in themselves and to be self-reliant, and you're providing these best practice trainings, then you can cover your bases, and that actually frees up your schedule to get your stuff done. So those are the 7 strategies that will lower turnover and build a more powerful culture so that you are enjoying your life at work. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. If you're interested in learning more about my Shurr Success mesmerizing leadership trainings, you can go to timshurr.com, or you can give me a call, 317-502-5293, and we can have a chat. So thanks so much. Enjoy your day. We'll talk to you soon.